Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue à cette réunion ordinaire publique du Conseil municipal de Dieppe en ce 25 avril.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to everybody on this evening of the 25th of April, the regular public meeting of Dieppe Council. So for the people who might need the interpretation devices, they are available.
They are available at the back of the room. I have a small, just a few words, juste quelques mots de...
Just a couple of words of thanks. Because as you might know, at the last meeting of this municipal council, as it was set up 4 years ago, and personally speaking, I'd like to thank all the members of council for the services that they've given to the community, for the excellent work that's been done over the last 4 years. I hope that Councillor Brideau is listening on the internet in warmer climes, because I'd like him to receive our thanks also, because I think the team has worked very well with the administration. I think that the results can be seen in the municipality, and I'm convinced that I'm speaking on behalf of all the members, the heads of the departments, the support that we've received from them over the years. And in the case of those who expected to be back on council, following the elections of the 9th of May, well, I believe that we'll be able to count on the same type of cooperation from all. Other than that, our opening word, let's have the serenity of accepting the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. We do have quorum. Have any conflicts of interest been mentioned? Yes? Yes, 1 second, please. Yes, Mr. Mayor, there's one subject that concerns me. It'll be a conflict of interest at item 10.4.2, duly noted. I think there's a form to fill. We'll have to make sure that it is completed, if I remember properly. So that means that we can now continue with the rest of the meeting. As it's been noted, Councillor Gaudette will leave the meeting for the 10.4.2. So without further ado, if we could have the adoption of the agenda at the 10.4.3, moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Nolan. On the question. Yes, the topic as such, we're talking about financial contribution to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 6 for an accessible vehicle. But it's something that was brought to us just recently, and we're talking about a financial contribution of $2,500, and basically it's the veterans at the special care home that in Moncton, but still it involves all the veterans of the region. It's an adapted vehicle, so you have the resolution before you. It has to be approved unanimously in order to be added to the agenda. So without further ado, all those in favor signify by saying aye, contrary-minded nay. So item 10.4.3 will be added to the agenda. Thank you to all. So we continue with the adoption of the agenda. Motion, Mr. Leblanc, seconded once again by Councillor Nolan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So the adoption is, the agenda is adopted as amended. Presentations, inquiries, and petitions. Welcome to Mr. Beauchesne. I almost forgot the name. I'm sorry. Superintendent of the Kodiak RCMP. Are there any members of council who have questions for Mr. Paul Beauchesne? If not, we will continue. And as always, you're welcome to stay with us, but we do understand if you want to go or if you maybe have something to add. The only thing I have to say, as always, take this opportunity to say thank for the invitation and to address you last week. You noticed that there was an arrest and then a sentence on somebody who has done more than 200 car shopping. So it's a good step in the right direction for the population, but we're going to tell you not to keep things of value in your vehicle. Next item is the public hearing on the rezoning application Horizon Place. Is there a presentation by Mr. Girard or Dion? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we proceed with the reading? So we're in public hearing for the requests of rezoning application for Horizon Place between Sunset and Sainte Thérèse Streets. The procedure today will be to give an idea of the context of the area. I think it was discussed during the public presentation, but by virtue of the act, we have to have a second public hearing and the reading of the bylaw and the rezoning. So we're going to go to the description of the project and the regulation of the act and the proposed changes. You have before you the procedure for the zoning amendment, and as I mentioned, on the 22nd of February, there was a resolution by Council to begin the rezoning process. The 14th of March, there was a public presentation. The 13th of April, it was the beginning of the 30-day period to receive objections concerning the amendment to the municipal plan. And then 25th of April, this is today, a public hearing. And then the following dates will be the 18th of May, the reunion of the Planning Advisory Council, which will give its recommendations to the council, so that the 13th of June, the council will be able to make a decision. So the owner of the lands subjected to the request is Syrah Enterprises, and the agent or the petitioner is Architects for Limited. You have the series of lands with the PIDs. Those lands are are the object of the rezoning request. Between the lands are located between Sunset and Sainte Thérèse Streets. Here you see a plan of the site. You see close to the municipal hall, between Champlain and La Pole and l'Acadie. Here, this slide shows you the footprint. It's the red line represents the site, and we're talking about rezoning this site. And a few of the houses on the picture have been demolished over a period of approximately a year. This shows the physical footprint within the sector. As you can see, there's quite a mix concerning the different sizes of the buildings. This map shows the topography of the site. During the preceding public hearing, we didn't have the tools to show you the elevation changes between Paul and l'Acadie. So what you see in blue essentially is under the 10 meters of elevation above sea level. And the more we go towards Acadie Avenue, the elevation increases, and what's in red on the map is 25 meters above sea level. And point A represents 8.6 meters, and point B on the map represents an elevation of 21.6 meters, difference of 13 meters. So we can see that it's a fairly moderate hill between Sainte-Thérèse and Sunset. As I mentioned during the preceding public hearing, the sector is evolving, especially when we consider the recent buildings over the last couple of years that have been built. We can see that in 2008 there were houses on a lot. So what I circled in red is a house, and in 2012 a multi-family building of approximately 4 floors was built. This is another example of the evolution in the neighborhood. In 2008, it's a single-family home that was, the lot was transferred in a business in 2013. And once again, we can see that there are a couple of single-family homes on a site, and there's a multi-level building that was built in 2015 with businesses on the bottom. So previously it was predominantly single-family homes, smaller businesses, and conventional businesses that you have are on Rue Paul and even on Champlain Street. And as we can see that there's a transition that is happening in the sector. This is a picture of the project, 155 units. The ground floor would be for offices, and this is the description of the plan: 173 parking spots on 3 levels, and then 45 surface parking. There would be 3 entrances on Sunset and 2 from Sainte-Thérèse. So what is circled in red represents the part of the building that would be dedicated for different levels of parking. There would be 3 different levels, especially if we look at the facade on the Paul Street side. We talk about the size of the building. It's different heights because we have varied topography. 31 meters on the Paul side, street side, and then 22 meters on the Acadie Avenue, on 100 meters along Sunset. This is another perspective. We can see here the 66 meters, which would be the width between Sainte-Thérèse and Sunset. And we can see that it's a fairly big building. This image is to show you a little bit the conditions in the past, so as we can see, it's a sketch to illustrate the building. There was a discussion, I think, Councillor Godet, who was asking questions concerning the height of the steeple of Sainte-Thérèse Church, and we can see here the height of the steeple is approximately 30 meters. And since the church is situated higher on the site, obviously, it's higher. So the steeple would have an elevation of approximately 50 meters above sea water, whereas the roof of the building would be approximately 40 meters above sea level. So the church would still remain higher, or at least the steeple would remain higher at a higher point than the other buildings of the municipality. Concerning one of the highlights of the projects, maybe some positive points concerning the municipal plan. We're talking about spot infill development. It's something that is going to be using a site that is underused. We're talking about restoration, revitalization of the built-up sectors. We also want to link the new projects with the municipal services. Other highlights, which are maybe in the gray zone concerning the municipal plan, we're talking about heightened density concerning what is usually projected for the sector. We're also saying that the proposed development it represents the general intent of the municipal plan. The highlights that have to be considered in relationship to the municipal plan, which maybe are not as positive concerning the municipal plan. There's going to be more shade on the neighboring properties because of the height of the buildings, and it's something that we don't find necessarily in the zonings, depending on the zones. And then it's a question of compatibility and integration of the building in relationship to the urban environment. The proposition has to be considered as a zone, considered in an integrated zoning. So it'll be up to council to decide whether there's a debate concerning the height when a decision will be called for. The analysis of a shade that was submitted by the agent, we're talking about the different building of 21 meters or 31 meters, depending on where we look from on the site. And it's obvious that there'll be more shade because of the extra height of the building. In our report to council, we would like actually council to consider attenuating conditions. In other words, to maybe reduce the height of the building by having underground parking. We're talking about also the general footprint of the building could be reduced, dividing the building in two smaller sized buildings. So that's another option. Also, to reduce the shape of the building by introducing different levels, different heights. So these obviously are different options of design, of architecture, but it's still going to be up to council to decide when it will be time to decide. The regulation right now that is proposed is to take the 8 lots and to move them from commercial to integrated. That would be part of the municipal plan, and the zoning. We would be taking 3 lots that are zone CR or highway commercial, and to turn them into integrated, and the others would be into integrated zoning. though there would be specific conditions if council desired to modify the zoning of these lots. So procedure, as I mentioned, for the changes to the zoning, the 18th of May would be the presentation of the official recommendations from the PAC to council, and then the 13th of June would be the day when council would decide to proceed or not. Are there any questions or comments? Before going to questions or comments, I believe that we've received 2 or 3 letters from the public, so maybe we could read them. There might be questions that come about these letters.
Your Worship, we received 3 letters on this request for rezoning. The first one is from Madame Aline Como, and it is with great sadness and disappointment that I read the article by James Foster, Dieppe Council considers apartment building proposal, is published in the Times and Transcript Tuesday, the 15th of March, 2016, A3. The developer, Enterprise, Sierra Enterprises, represented by Mr. Aris Vautour, would like to convince the Municipal Council of Dieppe to modify its zoning and planning bylaws in order to build a 55-unit building, which is 10 stories high. Well, you can say that progress does not stop. Well, maybe. But this progress shouldn't be done at the price of an architectural disbalance and a loss of the aesthetic value. The project proposed by Sierra Enterprises, Place Horizon, would included between the streets Sunset Acadie, Sainte-Thérèse, is disproportionate for this sector of the city of Dieppe. This colossal building will ruin the balance and the architectural proportions of the buildings in this neighborhood forever and ever. This building is much too high, much too massive for this part of the town. Furthermore, the building presented in the illustration in Mr. Foster's article does not bring any specific architectural value that would improve the urban harmony at this area, which is already too narrow. Sunset Street is already so limited that it's impossible to park the car along the street without bothering the normal traffic in the street. If the developer is planning on having a parking for its residents, you'll understand the traffic jams that will happen in this street when visitors and delivery vehicles want to have access to it. Do we want these traffic jams right in the city, in the center of the city of Dieppe? This kind of traffic on Sunset Street, as well as the surrounding streets, will it not limit planners and municipal engineers and oblige them to modify the traffic in this street to make it one-way, which right in the middle of a major business center, which is already very busy, would multiply the problems for the city and would paralyze traffic. And lastly, which is even more regrettable, is the fact that in the city where we have interesting urban architectural developments already, for example, the wonderful City Hall that we're very proud of, this kind of short-sighted municipal authorization cannot justify this type of development in this neighborhood. This kind of colossal development might be conceivable in a large city, but not in a region where the population density does not justify it. Doesn't the city of Dieppe already have a very high level of inoccupation in apartment buildings, 7.4% compared to the rest of Canada, which is 3%. Do we have to increase those statistics? I would ask you, councillors, to not modify your zoning bylaws in order to allow the construction of this monstrous building, which is not justified neither from an aesthetic, neither from an economic point of view. Aline Como. I'm writing to you following the presentation of the building proposed by Sierra Enterprises, as had been recommended by Mr. Girard during the meeting of council on March 14th. I have a few questions on this project. Has there been a market study on the need for such apartment buildings? I know that several monthly residential buildings are not occupied at 100% already. What does it give to have a zoning bylaw that sets criteria for the construction of future buildings if a developer can ignore these criteria and propose a plan almost ready that doesn't respect them? And this bylaw was voted on less than 6 months ago, so we cannot pretend that it is that it is too old. And this isn't just a rhetorical question. I'd really like to know how a project and the plans can be so advanced when before even the discussions on the bylaw have been held. The zoning bylaw, is it not there to avoid this visual free-for-all? Isn't that the reason we have it? Is it not? Are we not giving a preferential treatment to one single company at the detriment to the common good? Does the planning committee not intervene to ensure aesthetic harmony when there are new buildings, with the yellow and gold of Deluxe French fries, the green and white of Post Tire, the red and green of Wendy's, the colors omnipresent throughout the province of Tim Hortons, the McDonald's rainbow colors? We're not heading towards a more pleasant visual landscape. I have a few more comments. I saw the plan as proposed, and I can assure you that I do not find it very aesthetic. It is discouragingly ordinary. It doesn't offer anything new, and it seems to me that it's a lost opportunity to at least improve the visual landscape. Could we not add certain elements to soften the structure visually? Just do a Google search, including the words apartment buildings, for example, or others, and you'll notice that certain elements can soften this kind of concrete building. This building, according to me, takes up much too much room in the visual landscape, and it is disproportionate compared to the buildings around it. I find that in this downtown area, including Place 1664, City Hall, and the Market, they're very successful and have created a harmonious area which is very pleasant. Why not use that vision for the future of the city? You will have understood that I'm not in favor of this project as proposed, and I find it premature given that the long-term visual repercussion it will have. Considering the interest of the citizens of Dieppe, the number of people present at the presentation, perhaps we should take this opportunity to think about it and have the population think about the type of future development that we would like to see in the city, to establish new benchmarks if necessary for new construction, and to address the future use of vacant lots or those that need to be redeveloped. It would be a shame to let just a handful of people decide the urban landscape that will be around for future generations and tourists. Thank you for having given me time and for having listened to my questions and comments. Karine Luis. The third letter. Good evening. I'm a student in urban architecture, presently studying in Ottawa, and I originally come from the Acadian Peninsula, and I'd like to come back to the region after my education. I'd like to tell you about my idea on this Horizon Place, which I agree with, because it's with this kind of project that your municipality is going to really turn towards the future. This type of project will allow to densify the downtown area, which would eventually lead to an improvement in services, but it will also stop urban sprawl. I've noticed that there's been a lot of this in the area of the Greater Moncton in those last few years, and this is the kind of problem that we study in my classes as matter. The alternative to this problem is to build upwards. And speaking of heights, in order to counter this fear of heights, you could ask this impression that the height will give, you could ask the promoter to set back several meters starting from the third floor, and that would allow the building to better integrate to the area around it, and would give an impression to pedestrians that it's not quite as high. At the risk of repeating myself, I see this project through very favorably in spite of certain details that could be improved. But as a student in architecture who would like to come back to this area, I'd like to, I think this is a good progress. And thank you, and I hope that one day I'll be able to submit my own projects to my dear municipality. Thank you. Questions, Madame Dallaire? Yes, my question is of a practical nature. I was just wondering, for the public, could you tell us what time the PAC meeting is going to be held on the 18th? Normally, the PAC meetings are held at 6:30 in this room. They start at 6:30 p.m. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillors? Councillor Godet, first of all. Yes, thank you. Thank you for speaking of the relative heights. That the building that is now on the corner of Olivier and Acadie Streets, what is the height of that building, approximately? I would think that it's probably higher than the church doors. Are you talking about the Sunset Apartments? No, on the corner of Olivier and Acadie Streets. When you come out of Jean Coutu, I've noticed that it's not included in these relative heights that you included here. It's a 3-story building, so I don't think it's any higher than 10 or 11 meters. Yeah, I don't think it's over that height. I don't think it violates the height regulations. But compared to the other buildings that you did mention, I get the impression that it's about halfway up the church doors. Well, unfortunately, I can't talk to you about the church. I could probably give you an estimated guess. There's a maximum height of 11 or 12 meters for the building that you have in front of you. So if we take a figure of 12 meters and the bell tower is 30 meters, so it's about half of the height of the bell tower. Yeah, but what I mean is when you're looking on the horizon, if you're looking towards the horizon, I think that these buildings, including the one being proposed here, I think they're going to be approximately of the same height. Does anybody have this information? Well, in the presentation by the developer, we can see a drawing that Horizon Place will be higher up. For example, if you're in the parking lot at the Sears, in front of Sears at Champlain Place, if you look towards the project as proposed, you can see that the building is higher, quite a bit higher. Councillor Godet, can you see the image? Yeah. So what I circled here is the building at the corner of Olivier and Acadie Streets, and this building would be what is being proposed. So there is quite a difference here in this picture. And the Sainte-Thérèse residence right next door. So, in other words, the Horizon project isn't that much higher than the other buildings around when you look at it on the horizon. Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. Well, if you look at this here, any further questions, Councillor Godet? Councillor Béliveau, do you have a question? Thank you, Your Worship. A little earlier, you mentioned that one of the things that we recognize in the municipal plan is this desire to increase the density of the population. Are you ready to say that this kind of project does meet that criteria? Well, as I mentioned in my presentation, there are different principles within the municipal plan that try to encourage this kind of project, especially in this sector, this neighborhood of the municipality. So it's a little difficult. Well, it's a question of determining how dense do you want to go and what height do you want to allow. The municipal plan prescribes a maximum height, and this project proposed wants to go higher than what is being prescribed for this sector. So at the end of the day, it's up to council to debate this point, the height and the density. That's what you must decide. And another question, Your Worship, does the municipal infrastructure in that neighborhood, is there municipal infrastructure in these area surrounding the project? Mr. Desjardins? Yes, the question had already been asked. Yes, the question had been asked, and the analysis has been done. There is the infrastructure necessary. So the infrastructure can accommodate this kind of project? Well, there would be certain modifications that would have to be made in the building, but yes, it would be adequate. Your Worship, perhaps this will be at a future stage, but if it's appropriate, there was a question raised on a market study. Has the market study been done in order to determine if there's a sufficient clientele for this kind of project? Could we get information on this? Well, we'll ask the promoter, because of course this is his responsibility. He's the one who's going to go spend money on this. So I would think that he's probably already done it. But yes, I was just wondering if it would be appropriate to ask for that this evening. Well, why not? We're all here. Mr. Vautour, would you like to come to the mic to answer this question? Good evening. Yes, we've done an in-house market study, and we determined that there was a need. It's the building will not be filled in 2 months. We think it'll take 18 months to fill it. Yes, it's a large building, but we've done the study, and yes, there is a need, and we've already spoken to some people who are already ready to put a deposit down, as a matter of fact. So yes, we've done the study, and we feel there is a demand. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Gaudet, did you have another question? No. No, it was answered adequately. Thank you. If there are no further questions from councillors, perhaps we could make it. Well, there was a presentation that was already made this evening and in March, so we don't want to take up too much time, but we're here to answer any questions. Is there anybody in the public who has a question on the project as proposed, on the building, on the technical aspects of it? Yes, sir, if you'd like to come to the microphone, please. Identify yourself. Good evening. I am Marc Daou, and I own some buildings here in the city. And for me, well, I have some comments that I'd like to make, because I've built some buildings here, and the way a developer should proceed, I think, when you buy a lot to build, you have to look at the zoning, of course, then you have to look at the bylaws and the rules in play, and because I presume that these regulations and bylaws are there for a good reason, because the city has a certain vision of what it would like to see in the future. And when I built, I looked at all of this, I looked to see if my plans fit in with the city's plans, and I worked with the city to make sure that these projects fit in and aligned with the city's objectives. When I look at this project, I notice that the developer probably did not do this or didn't care, or I don't know, because this is a mega project. And obviously, he has to ask for major variances. I mean, we're not talking about minor variances. So why have these regulations in the municipality if somebody can come up with a project that is already all drawn up, and we notice that it doesn't fit in with the city's philosophy? I'm not against development. I'm not against putting a building there. It's just, in my opinion, it is disproportionate. It won't be very pretty to look at, like the letters stated. And I'm just wondering. And my second comment for the market study, I think that was a very good question. I know a number of developers here in the city already who have apartment buildings, and they have trouble. The inoccupancy rate is 8 or 9%. A 40-unit building currently, the municipal and provincial taxes are around the $100,000 range, so $8,000 a month. It takes 10 apartments just to pay the taxes on a 40-unit building. And furthermore, there's an inoccupancy rate of 10%. So that means that these developers have trouble currently, have a certain level of difficulty. Mr. Vautour says that he's done his market study, and I'm sure that he expects that because of the location of this building, that there will be a certain demand. But people have to come from somewhere. So I get the impression that that's going to increase the inoccupancy rate of other buildings in the city. It's not true that there are 155 new families that are going to come settle here. For a certain amount of time, it will cause a certain problem, in my opinion. I think that something can be done, but this project, as presented, it is too large. It doesn't fit with your own regulations that you adopted. So I think everybody should work together to come up with a project that fits in better, that aligns up better with your regulations, and that will respect the other developers who they followed the rules and whose buildings exist already. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any questions from other members of the public or from councillors? If not, yes, thank you. Yes, over here. Yes, please go to the mic. Good evening. My name is Eric Lebrun. I'm a student in architecture, but I'm here as a citizen of Dieppe. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the city for its intention of densifying the downtown area. Right now, it's just a parking lot, so it would be great to bring in people to live there, to give life to the downtown sector. What concerns me with this project, though, other than the aesthetic side of it, I think that's very subjective, so I don't want to talk about it, but I think it's the volume. This is an immense building, and I think it can be improved. But what concerns me is that this, in terms of the street, somebody had mentioned that there's parking there, there's some buildings, businesses. I don't know where they are. I didn't see them in the plans on Sunset Street. But in my opinion, if we want a living and dynamic downtown, we need something on the street. We can't just have these big parking lots. Higher density is to try and get rid of cars so that people don't have to drive 15 or 20 minutes to go shopping, to be able to go shopping on foot. And if our downtown area isn't adequate to allow pedestrian traffic, well, it's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater, if you allow me. So I'm not sure. I'm perhaps they could explain the business side of it, what businesses will be set up there. That would be very helpful to me. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Girard, would you have an explanation?
So here we have the perspective from Sunset Street, and what's been illustrated is essentially in gray with the three first levels. We're talking about the 3 levels of parking. There would be no businesses on Sunset Street, except in this little section here of the building where there will be the offices of the developer, Sierra Enterprises. So, in fact, there will be no businesses on Sunset Street. The main reason, or one of the main reasons, that's why the rezoning is being requested. So, the zoning, CS, by necessity, obligates the businesses on the ground floor, and the CR zoning does not, since there are two different zonings, and because of the size of the building, the decision was to go to integrated development. And once again, the decision of the council will come with many conditions, so I hope that answers the question. Thank you. So if there are no other questions, we'll go to the next item. Thank you, Mr. Girard. Now we're item 7.3, presentation on the Doiron Heritage House. Madame Cornier, good evening. Good evening. You look relaxed. Yes. Relaxed. Thank you. So we want to talk to you about a heritage house project. It doesn't have 3 floors, but it's purchased from last October, and we'd like to give you an idea of how far we're in the project. The decision from council that led to the purchase of the house. So this is our game plan. There was a feasibility study, there was a consultation, heritage, Canadian heritage, the structure of the building, the budget, starting 2019, programming, and the deadlines. So the house, as you know, is at 51 Amiro Street. It's an Acadian residence, 1.5 floors, wood structure. It's in the sector that used to be called Saint-Anselme in Dieppe. There used to be a meeting and a celebration building, and the basement was used as a school. It was built in 1841. So in 2016, it'll be 75 years old, and it's still in good shape. The Heritage House, as you can see the pictures. You haven't seen the house yet, but you'll be able to see it soon. This is the barn. The door can be opened. It can hold quite a few people, so it's a pretty big barn with the second floor for storing stuff. The house, what makes it special is, as you can see, the masonry, as you see in the picture, is still in the house. It's one of the last houses with this type of masonry on it. It will be exposed, and we'll be maintaining it. Public consultations, we had a consultation during the Heritage Week. There were 24 participants who came. We had citizens that we don't see too often, and then some that we see on a regular basis, different groups of people. We approached the Comité Action Jeunesse to find out what their ideas were into this. We also met with the Seniors Association, Francophone Seniors Association. They gave us their comments. There was the managers of the Dieppe city, the leisure managers from the city of Dieppe. We also met the owners, the former owners of the house, Jean-Guy Légère and his brother. Feasibility study, we're working on it now with Nadeau Souci Ellis, the society. We have key actors working inside the service of the community, which is our service, the specialists in buildings, Mr. Como, planning and development. There were meetings with them, and we also had the fire marshal who of the province who inspected the house and made very positive comments. We've done the design with Tina, who worked on the landscaping, because we should work on the outside also. Marc Leblanc, who's analyzed the market for the Doiron house, and Bernard Leblanc, the historian from the university who helped us with this project. Those are the people that we contacted for the feasibility study. Canadian Heritage, they're going to be covering, if we're accepted for a grant, our meeting with them was very positive. They'll cover up to 50% of the admissible eligible expenses, and what is not eligible are the salaries, but all the other for expenses for restoration, and you see the 4 steps that we're going to be following are eligible, and it's to a maximum of $500,000. So if the municipality puts in $500,000, then there's a possibility that the Canadian Heritage will put in $500,000. To qualify for this big amount in this project, it has to commemorate a local historic event, an important one. It also has to be to commemorate an anniversary, centenary, so it's with 25 years differences. So this is going to be the 75th anniversary of the building, so it also has to involve the transformation of the building now, the type of work that we want to do in it. The structure, according to the public consultations that we've had with people, the structure that you have before you is the one that was suggested, that the municipality of Dieppe would be at the top of the structure with a managing committee. We all the leisure sector on the left with the community agencies, with our organizations also. There would be the students during the summer, the programming committees, which would be volunteer, and they would work at the program, the house, the barn, the outside of the house, and on the side of heritage, the historic aspects. So we had projects in the future for Councillor Godet. He'll be able to give us a hand. The aspect of heritage aspect, there'll be a committee that's set up to work on it, and also on the installations. There'll be students working on that too. That is a structure that was suggested. The operating budget, approximate, depending on the costs, with the increase of the life. So I won't go in detail. We'll give you some more details when we come back to present the project, when we do have the definitive amounts. But if we do have activities, sponsoring, for example, in the barn or in the house as such, we could also get some grants from the government. And the expenses on the administration aspect, there's administration, programming, and maintaining. So it's approximately 61,500 annual expenses. The house would be open year-long. Maybe they would be closed Monday and Tuesday during the winter. They would be open from Wednesday to Sunday. During the summer, it would be open 6 days a week, except, it would be closed on Monday. And if somebody would be interested in renting the house, there would be a possibility to open it on Mondays. But they would be closed on Monday, but only in winter. Programming, you see it in front of you, examples of activities. We have quite a few activities possible, but a lot of mentions the barn, the outside, in the basement, up. There would just be in the second floor, there would be no activities. In the kitchen, there are many things that, as you can see, there are many possibilities. Community support, we've had letters of support, groups that figure they can really benefit from the house. Francophone School District South, because it was a school. So, and in June we'll be having a meeting with all the principals of the Dieppe schools to see the possibilities of activities for school. Transformation phases. Phase 1 would be preservation. That's the roof. Demolition of the deck in the front, because at the time there was no deck. And then we'd have to work on the foundation. Things have to be worked on there. Phase 2 would be the exterior restoration, the windows. Right now we're not going to be touching them. They're old. I don't think that we're going to be working on the windows yet. Doors, the outside, and the phase 3 would be the structure of the building. The kitchen has to be reinforced. The whole mechanical aspect, accessibility for wheelchairs, and then the toilets, bathrooms. Phase 4 would be the interior restoration, which would be finishing off the summer kitchen, the masonry, the basement, and the barn. Those are the 4 phases of the work on the Heritage House. These are the date lines. In October, purchase of the house. January was the beginning of the feasibility study. The report will be approximately 150 pages, and thanks to the historian who has looked into each of the rooms, and he'll be giving us his ideas. That's Bernard Leblanc. In February, there was the public consultation. In April, we're here for the presentation to Council, and also for the request to Canadian Heritage. In May, the study will be finished, because it takes approximately 6 months to get an answer. That's November. In 2 weeks, we'll maybe have an answer. We can start work once we have the money, and that can take up to 6 months. And then in September, it would be phase 1, which is the exterior and the roof. In 2017, it would be phases 2 and 3. In 2018, phase 4, that's the last phase. And in 2019, as we figure, we put to June, but it could be July or August, and it would be the opening for the Congrès Mondial Acadien. So that's about it, the timelines that we've given ourselves. And we hope everything will work out all right. So before your questions and comments, I want to add that things are really falling in place. We have the 4 axes of the policy, and in June, as soon as we get the answer from the federal, we'll be making a presentation with the new municipal council to present different options and possibilities that we want to do in the House. Thank you, Madame Cormier. Questions from Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very nice presentation, Pauline. Thank you. Just one question concerning the eligibility criteria for Canadian Heritage. There are 3 of them. Do we have to be okay with the 3 of them? No, those are the 3 main ones. But yes, we have to respect the three of them. So we're in discussions with Ottawa, and with Ottawa, and we're in a good situation with them. Thank you. Councillor Béliveau. Thank you. This sounds like a very good project. You mentioned a couple of times that it's a question of restoration and not renovation. So I think if you have the collaboration of Mr. Bernard Leblanc, it will be pretty close to what it used to be 75 years ago. So it's going to be very interesting to see the result. The point I'd like to raise, though, is, well, once I said that, I'm going to contradict myself, and that's not the first time. Yeah, but, well, actually, we're hoping that it's the last one, though. It could be, Mr. Mayor, but you never know. And never say never. An elevator, because it's a two-story elevator, would there be any reason not to consider elevators? There would be individuals who wouldn't be able to climb the stairs because they wouldn't have access to the second floor. I know they didn't have any elevators 75 years ago, but has it been considered? No, the question was asked, our history specialist, all the heritage houses. I mean, if we put in an elevator, it's no longer a heritage house. At the second level, the only thing that we'll be able to see is one room, and that was Mr. Doiron's room. And then the rest of the area on the second floor will be for storage. Because it was a residence, it wasn't built for commercial purposes, so we can't have more than 2 people or 3 people up there at the same time. We're not foreseeing anything like that, but we will put in a lift chair in the barn that will be able to bring people up to the second floor of the barn where things will be happening. Councillor Gaudette. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to see the evolution of this project concerning the preservation of a unique building, not only in Dieppe, but basically in all of l'Acadie, by its structure and the way it was set up. Bernard Leblanc, who is considered an expert in old houses, structures. He's done studies in androchronology to come to a very precise date concerning its construction. So I think it is something that's going to be very advantageous to your project in the matter of resources and federal contribution. I don't know if we've mentioned maçon, but it's masonry, and it's basically a fireplace. And in the house there used to be 6 different areas. This one that was covered up very early. So what we see is the original material, the brick, the stones. So I had the opportunity to visit the house with Bernard Leblanc, and it's a one of a kind in the way we see it and in its preservation, its state of preservation. There are other groups, maybe veterans, who could have a spot to expose certain things from them. But all this is going to evolve. The garden, which was cultivated, yes, there were going to be a community garden exactly where it used to be. Thank you. And finally, Mr. Mayor, I think that Madame Pauline is basically saying that, you know, sometimes it's risky business to retire from an organized or a 9-to-5 job, because when you're retired, everybody takes care of your schedule. But thank you very much, and if I can contribute to the project, I will. Thank you. Thank you, Monsieur Gaudette. Are there any other questions from Council? No? So thank you, Madame Corrier, for this excellent presentation. And we're all very happy to see something that is close to our heart and to see it evolve so quickly. Thank you. Now, item number 8, questions by members of the public. Are there questions by members of the public tonight? No? So we will go immediately to the adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting held on April 11th, 2016. A motion, Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Cormier, on the question. All those in favor of the adoption of the minutes of the 11th of April, 2016, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. Thank you. Next item, motions, memorandums, and nominations. We'll start with the Culture, Leisure, and Community Life Sector, 10.1.1. Mr. Melanson. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The first resolution is, following this nice presentation, to authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to sign the Canadian Heritage application for funding under the Building Communities through Arts and Heritage Program, the Legacy Fund component. Thank you. Motion, Councillor Cormier. Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That Council authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to sign the Canadian Heritage application for funding under the Building Communities through Arts and Heritage Program, the Legacy Fund component. So moved. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Leblanc on the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. 10.1.1 is carried as presented. 10.1.2, Mr. Melanson. This is the authorization of signature of the development agreement between City of Dieppe and MC Hotels Resorts. Last week there was a direction to have an agreement to lease space with the hotel project in the downtown. So you have an agreement that was written up, and that includes the following elements. Space on the roof for refrigerated equipment, and an ice resurfacer for refrigerated skating oval project, and also for 2 accessible toilets. And this is of added value to the initial proposition. I just want to mention this resolution on the 8th of February. It was in the agreement that you have before you. There are some materials that had to be installed, and this is due to the fire marshal. Also, there's a refrigerated equipment on the roof, so we had to reinforce the roof to be able to support the weight, and also the development of 2 toilets in order for the 1604 place be available for 12 months of the year. So there was $300,000 that had been mentioned. We mentioned $292,352.43, and also the agreement has to be the lease has to be 5 years. So this represents something that you have to recommend the authorization. For the reading of the resolution, Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That Council authorize the signing of the development agreement between the City of Dieppe and MC Hotels and Resorts, Inc. for the development and lease of space within the hotel project in order to install refrigerated equipment and a garage for the ice resurfacer for the refrigerated skating oval project at Place 1604. The Council authorized the payment in the amount of $292,352.43 plus HST to MC Hotels and Resort, Inc., pursuant to the terms outlined in the development agreement, and also authorized that this expenditure be defrayed from account number 3-3-70-12-7611, General Capital Budget, Refrigerated Skating Oval. So moved. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Nolan on the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. Next item, 10.1.3. You have before you the tender award, refrigerated skating oval, place 1604. It's a new version for the French version. To the 8th of February last, there was requesting council to direct staff to set up the project during 2016, the refrigerated skating oval, place 1604. There was a tender award. 2 companies put in bids. Tonight you have the recommendation of the lowest bidder, Acadian Construction Limited, in the amount of $899,900 plus tax. And this contract includes 4 elements: the site, as the preparation and the completion. It's something that had to be done without the oval, with the new hotel and the refurbishing of the site for activities. There's also piping, and then a refrigeration system and mechanical. So the contract includes all these and eliminates the agreement with MC. It's a budget of $1,304,000. We recommend you to approve this project. Councillor Béliveau, for the reading of the motion. The council award the contract for the construction of a refrigerated skating oval at Place 1604 to the lowest bidder, being Acadian Construction Limited, in the amount of $899,900 plus HST, and authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from account number, sorry, just one moment, $899,900 plus HST, and authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from account number 3-3-70-12-7611, General Capital Budget, Refrigerated Skating Oval. So moved. Moved by Councillor Béliveau, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Oops, sorry, Mr. Godet. Yes, I had the privilege of seeing the details of the project, and there are elements that I found surprising, and some others that are a concern for me, because the developer is here. Maybe we can ask him why in this oval, as we see in different places, is there no space that is separate for the really small children and the people learning to skate, that would be separate from the rest of the skating area? I think I realize that we have to juggle a bit, but at the same time, long term, it might be a good idea to have a separate area for the smaller children and for learners. Why has this not been done for this project? Mr. Bourque?
Well, we chose a 5-meter oval with 7 meters at the extremities, so it's really an oval. Now, according to our discussions, or in our discussions, we wanted to maintain the flow of people always going in the same direction, because it's not a very big oval. I understand if we had another space available for the younger children, but we want to maintain a green space as well, and we had to respect that, because the mercredi shows are going to still be ongoing, and other activities will continue at the Place 1604. That's why. Well, I understand that you want to keep green spaces, but you still have to make sure that the rink surface is safe and practical for what it's meant to do. So if I understand your answer correctly, there will not be any safe space for beginners and for very young children. Well, it's only 5 meters wide for most of it, with an extra 2 meters at the ends. Well, when people skate around in circles, I mean, I don't want to call them accidents, but there will be bumps. Now, the change rooms, or the locker rooms, or change rooms for people, or areas for people to change their skates, people who are going to want to put on their skates but leave their boots somewhere. Now, I didn't notice that there was anything set aside for that, any facilities for that. No. We're going to prepare an area at one of the ends with benches, as we saw in 2 other localities where they have the same type of facility. People at this stage of the project, of course, people will be outside to put their skates on because they're going to be skating outdoors anyhow. So that's the concept we're going with. We also have to respect our budget, of course. And this is what we're proposing to you. Well, I want to respect budget, but we still have to do something of quality, something that will be satisfactory to users. And in terms of a change area or an area where people can put their skates or boots on, I'm not talking about an enclosed area necessarily, but something that is organized and ready for people to do that. Well, it will be ready for people to do that, but it's not in the plans as we see them here. Oh, yes, it is. No, you said earlier that it doesn't exist yet. No, not to change your skates. We said that there would be a space with rubber on the ground and benches so people can put their skates on. Yes. Yeah, but an area where people can leave their boots in a protected area as well. Something else I noticed. On the west-northwest side, we know that these bitter winds and the winds that are not very pleasant to skate in come from that side, and I didn't see any kind of protection from the wind that would come from that direction. Well, I've noted this, but at this point in time, we haven't planned on anything, no, to protect from the wind. So all of these things might be added in eventually in another project or another budget item. Well, the project will grow, will change over time, and we'll see what happens with the development of the downtown in the future. I didn't think I had realized, or perhaps I hadn't asked the question properly. The liquid that will be circulating in the pipes, is it a brine solution or alcohol? Alcohol? Glycol. It's glycol. And the evaporation or the refrigeration capacity, will that remain? Well, currently, the project, we have measured the tonnage at 85 tons. 85 tons of refrigerant. Now, we discussed it with the engineers, our mechanical engineers, and for this type of project, the minimum requirement is 58 tons for the surface area we want to refrigerate. So we're almost 40% above capacity, which is a good thing. Well, yeah, considering the climate here and the size of the surface, I'm afraid that would be the limit that would be satisfactory for the whole length of the season that you're planning on. What would the season be? We're from December to the end of March, mid-April, if the weather allows. So mid-April, okay, December, a little earlier perhaps? No, December. Or maybe a little earlier than December. Well, if the weather allows, perhaps we could be there in November. But the weather, time will tell. Well, I'm very pleased, that in 5 weeks rather than 5 years, you have raise the refrigerant to the roof and that it is open to the air rather than underwater. So thank you for having taken that into consideration. Yes, if I remember that meeting, we had discussed the possibility of installing something like a bus shelter on the wind side, upwind, in order to reduce the wind from that direction, I think, if memory serves. Well, anything that would cut the wind. And something like that, like a shelter, bus shelter would serve two purposes. It would also be a shelter for the skaters. Thank you, Mr. Godet. Mr. Beliveau. Thank you, Your Worship. The concern raised by Councillor Godet on younger or newer skaters, well, at several occasions during the winter, I noticed that there was a whole section that had been reserved for the younger kids. I don't know how they worked it out, but there were no adults in that. Perhaps we should go from the simple to the complicated. And perhaps we should reserve one end or put some sort of barrier there, a soft barrier, so that perhaps the younger skaters or the beginners could an area that could be reserved to them, because I haven't seen people skate very, very quickly. People are all there to fun, but that should meet that need, at least at the beginning. So I'd like to congratulate the team that put this together. I think it's going to be a true jewel of the center of the downtown area starting next year. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Godet? Yes, I would just like to mention that I'm not against the concept of animation at Place 1604, but in my opinion, the design is not perhaps the best detail to offer the best service possible. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. If there are no further questions on the resolution, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. The no nays, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3. The ayes, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the resolution, once again, is adopted by the majority of council. The next item, 10.2, expansion Dieppe. Here it's a ratification for the sale of a land on at lot 014A on Engelhard Street. This was a directive adopted at closed meeting last March, and it's asked that council authorize the sale of this lot. It's a lot that measures approximately 2.5 acres, and it would be sold at a price of $60,000 per acre. And of course, you have a copy of the agreement in front of you that confirms the seriousness of the client, and it's for your authorization and vote this evening. Thank you for the reading of the resolution. Councillor Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. Further to the directive adopted at the closed meeting of council held on March 14, 2016, that council authorizes the sale of lot 01-4A, identified under PID 703-67818, situated on Engelhard Street and measuring approximately 2.5 acres, to 7083661 Canada Inc., at the cost of $60,000 per acre, for a total estimated amount of $150,000. And I so move. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. Carried as presented. 10.3.1, engineering. Yes, this would be a tender award for a sewer and culvert reconstruction on Champlain Street, and following the confirmation of a partnership with the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure for a designated highway. This would be for the phase 1 of works of a job, and this is recommended to go to Modern Construction 1983 Limited at a cost of $1,819,500,000 plus HST, and that awards the tender for the engineering service related to Projet Consultants Limited at the cost of $136,196,000 plus HST, and the work would be performed this summer before the asphalting of the street. Thank you. To read the resolution, Mr. Thibodeau, thank you. That Council awards the tender for the sewer and culvert reconstruction Champlain Street project to the lowest bidder, Modern Construction 1983 Limited, at the cost of $1,819,500 plus HST, and also awards the tender for the engineering services related to said project to Projet Consultants Limited at the cost of $136,196 plus HST, and that Council authorizes these expenditures be defrayed from account number 3-3-35-58-7624, General Capital Budget, Champlain Street, Culvert, Mill and Pave. And I so move. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Godet. On the question, Councillor Béliveau. Thank you, Your Worship. On the question of the culvert, is the culvert a part of a program under which the costs are the responsibility of the province, whereas Champlain is a designated highway? Is the culvert in part our responsibility or not at all? We apply the same sharing policy as the highway. So it's the same formula applies, the same formula. Thank you for that. Thank you. Councillor Godet. Yep, in reading the explanation here for the work that's going to be done along this street, we get the impression that the work is done by section, small section by small section, rather than for the whole length of the street. And how are we to understand this? Mr. Desjardins. Well, they are repairs to sections. It's not a full reconstruction of the whole street. For this summer. It's just resurfacing later on this summer. But before we do that, we want to do the repairs that are necessary from L'Acadie right to Midland. And there are some video investigations that have been performed of the sanitary and storm sewers to identify which repairs are necessary. And where we've identified that repairs are necessary, they're included in this contract. Is there a lot of relocalization of the pipes and mains? No, it's rather, because of the realignment of College Street, yes, but other than that, it's just repairs. And are you going to make sure that the manhole covers and so on are elsewhere than where the car wheels are travel? That's always a part of our objectives. We always try to accommodate that request so that the cars don't travel on top of the manhole covers. Well, there's what's possible and there's what is essential. We have to insist upon it. Thank you. I don't see any further questions, so all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's carried as presented. 10.3.2, Mr. Melanson. Yes, this is a tender award for engineering services on the street reconstruction of Thomas Street and Melanson Road, and it would authorize EXP Services to undertake the services for an amount of $78,000 plus HST, and this is for the authorization, and we would also be asphalting the Airport Tower and Légère Streets under these engineering services. Thank you. And who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council authorizes EXP Services, Inc. to undertake the engineering services for the street reconstruction of Thomas and Melanson project, and further authorizes this expenditure, estimated at $78,110 plus HST, be defrayed from account number 3-3-35-58-7601, General Capital Budget, Asphalt Management. And I so move it. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Godet. On the question. Councillor Godet. I'm just wondering, the bit of it on Thomas Street, why is it done before we do all of the realignment of Thomas with industrial and through what is currently called La France Street? Mr. Desjardins. This is a part of Thomas Street that needs work, obviously. And even if we're going to realign Thomas Street in the future, it's going to connect up to just a little higher up than Thériault Street. We still have to put a little bit of work into this section. It's not a total reconstruction. It's really just the removal of the asphalt, and the aggregate is adequate, based on our testing, and then we'll good for another 15 years. Well, I recognize that the surface coat needs it, but I'm just wondering if we're not overlapping, if we're not duplicating the work. It's going to be complementary. Yes, that's why we're only going to go up to Thériault Street. We're going to go just a little higher than where the connection is going to be, but at that area, it's just going to be a resurfacing of a temporary nature. Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. If I understand correctly, on Melançon Street, it's from Amiro right up to Central? Chemin Bourg Road. That's a mill and pave? Yes. Thank you. I wasn't sure if it was all the way up to Bourg Street or... Thank you. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's carried as presented. Thank you. Next item, 10.3.3. Yes, you have before you a tender award for street reconstruction and sanitary sewer system installation on Chartersville Road and a small section of Bourg Road. And so there was a call for tenders, and we recommend that it go to the lowest bidder, Modern Construction, 1983 Limited, a cost of $1,846,795 plus HST, and also awards these engineering services to RV Anderson Associates Limited for a cost of $132,111 plus HST. So you have all of the accounts as are identified here, and this fits into the budget that had been set aside for this project. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Go ahead. Thank you. It's been so long since I've been talking about this bit of pipes and roads and sewers that I would be very pleased to propose the adoption of this resolution. That Council awards the tender for the street reconstruction and sanitary sewer system installation, Chartersville Road project, to the lowest bidder, Modern Construction 1983 Limited, at the cost of $1,846,795 plus HST, and also awards the tender for engineering services relating to said project to RV Anderson Associates Limited at the cost of $132,111 plus HST. That Council authorizes these expenditures be defrayed from account number 3-3-35-58-7711, General Capital Budget, Installation, Sanitary Sewer, Chartersville, and account number 4-3-90-58-7711, Water and Sewer Capital Budget. That Council further authorizes a budget transfer in the amount of $1.6 million from account number 3-3-35-58-7601, General Capital Budget, Pavement Management and Related Work, to account number 3-3-35-58-7711, General Capital Budget, Installation, Sanitary Sewer, Chartersville. And I so move it, Your Worship. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Godet. And I must admit that I share the feeling with you. We've had discussions on this for a number of years now. So it's been moved and seconded on the question. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It is carried as presented. 10.3.4. Here in the reconfiguration of du Collège Street and considered the report of the Expropriations Advisory Officer, Mr. Jonathan Roquenoel. We as for authorization for an expropriation, and the numbers of the lots are identified here to move ahead with a project that has been identified in 2016. And this is, and I would just like to point out as well that discussions are still underway with the owner of the lot in order to come up with a agreeable agreement. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved that the City of Dieppe, having received and considered the report of the Expropriations Advisor Officer, Mr. Jonathan Roquenoel, dated April 8, 2016, confirms its notice of intention to expropriate, and that a notice of expropriation be issued with respect to the lands described in the notice filed in January 26, 2016 in the Land Titles Office, New-Brunswick, as number 35636787, and in the Westmoreland County Registry Office as number 35636811, and described in the amended notice filed on February 2, 2016, in the Land Titles Office, New Brunswick, as number 35655845, and in the Westmoreland County Registry Office as number 35655761, with the exception of the lands having Service New Brunswick parcel identification number 0067331, which was acquired by the City of Dieppe on March 21, 2016. That Council authorizes the amount which will be determined at the conclusion of an agreement be defrayed from account number 3-3-35-58-7621, General Capital Budget, Collège Street Extension. And I so move it, Your Worship. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Godet on the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. 10.3.5. This is another tender award for the reconfiguration of Champlain and Collège Street intersection. So following a call for tenders, what is being recommended is that this tender go to Dexter Construction Limited at a cost of $2,887,448 plus HST, and that the engineering service be awarded to WSP Canada Inc. at a cost of $160,000, and that these expenditures defray from the accounts as identified, and that there be a budget transfer in the amount as identified, and that the province is a partner with us. And so this is for your approval this evening, and this would be the last intersection that needs work that will be done once and for all on Champlain Street. Thank you. And to read the resolution, Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council awards the tender for the Champlain Street, Collège Street intersection reconfiguration project to the lowest bidder, Dexter Construction Company Limited, at a cost of $2,887,448 plus HST, and also awards the tender for engineering services relating to sell project to WSP Canada Inc. at the cost of $160,000 plus HST, and that Council authorizes that these expenditures be defrayed from account number 3-3-35-58-7621, General Capital Budget, Collège Street Extension, and account number 4-3-90-58-7621, Water and Sewer Capital Budget, that Council further authorizes a budget transfer in the amount of $224,768.18 from account number 4-3-90-58-7601, Water and Sewer Capital Budget, Pavement Management and Related Work, to account number 4-3-90-58-7621, Water and Sewer Capital Budget. That Council further authorizes a budget transfer in the amount of $45,000 from account number 4-3-90-58-7711, Water and Sewer Capital Budget, Installation, Sanitary Sewer, Chartersville, to account number 4-3-90-58-7621, Water and Sewer Capital Budget. And I so move it, Your Worship. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Dallaire. On the question. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It is carried as presented. Now we are on Councillor Gaudette. Yes, I didn't press my button fast enough. The company that is being awarded this tender, I noticed that in the description of this, we seem to hesitate in terms of the ability of this company to finish the work on time. And I know we've already dealt with this company in the past, and it did not perform as expected. Have we taken the necessary measures to make sure that it is finished on time and with the level of quality as expected? Mr. Desjardins. Thank you, Your Worship. We have no concerns in terms of the quality and the scheduling of Dexter Construction that has worked on other large projects here. For example, the intersection of Champlain and Dieppe Boulevard, and on Industrial and Champlain Boulevard. So they do have the expertise and the experience. And the contract does stipulate a start date and an end date for the project. So those are the dates that we will use to make sure that we meet the schedule as set. Did they have other projects that were not as successful as the ones that you just mentioned? I know it was some years ago, but I'm hoping that they have improved according to your evaluation. We're confident that we'll advance as planned. Thank you. So I think we've already voted on it. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It is carried as presented. 10.4 exemption request for bylaw S9 prohibiting excessive noise for special events. Yes, this is the Club Progrès du Grand Moncton is organizing a special event at Rotary Park on June 18th. And this is an event that goes beyond the 10 o'clock limit, so it's for your approval for the event to go on until 11 p.m. And this is bylaw S9, and we need an exemption to allow excessive noise past 10 p.m. Who would like to read it? Councillor Nolan? Yes, further to the request submitted by the Club Progrès du Grand Moncton pursuant to Article 4 of Bylaw S9 prohibiting excessive noises, that Council gives permission to the said organization to hold a special event in St. Anselm Rotary Park on Saturday, June 18th, 2016 from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. And I so move it. It's been moved by Councillor Nolan, seconded by Councillor Cormier. On the question. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It is carried as presented. 10.4.2. Mr. Gaudette, it has been noted in the minutes that Mr. Gaudette has a conflict here.
Mr. Mayor, Council, you have before you a request for reimbursement to Councillor Jean Gaudette. He during a trip, La France des Acadiens 2016, from June 4th to June 6th next. And the explanations for the expenditure to be defrayed, an amount of $5,800. And the council has to decide. I think it would be a good idea to give details as to the why of this trip and what kind of relationship there is with the history of l'Acadie. This is for the 50th anniversary of 4 citizens of Acadiens who were invited by Charles de Gaulle to visit France 50 years ago. And there's something that is filed with the memo. In the region of Poitou, in Châtellerault, region in France, La Rochelle, Nantes, Belle-Île-en-Mer, and around the Mont Saint-Michel, and possibly a visit to Dieppe in Normandy, the sister municipality. And there are going to be celebrations at Belle-Île-en-Mer to honor the Acadians and the special activities to commemorate all the different happenings. Monsieur Gaudet's involvement all along his career towards the twinning, the heritage, all the Acadian elements and Acadian history. Jean Gaudet is well placed to represent very properly the Acadian citizens. This is basically to highlight the specific names of the people who are part of Dieppe's heritage, the 4 Acadians, specifically 3 from Dieppe, de Gilbert Fine, Adélard Savoie, and Euclide d'Aigle, who were accompanied by Dr. Léon Richard. And the 4 of them went to a visit with Charles de Gaulle. So, for the reading of the resolution, Mr. Cormier. The Council authorized the reimbursement of travel expenditures incurred by Councillor Jean Gaudet in the approximate amount of $5,800 during the trip La France des Acadiens 2016 from June 4th to the 16th, 2016, and further authorize the expenditure to be defrayed from account number 1-2-20-12-2145, General Operating Budget, Twinning. So moved. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question, Madame Dallaire. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only question or intervention would be, because Mr. Gaudet will no longer be member of council, once this trip is over, we should make sure that there is a report on the trip done to council. If there are specific objectives, goals concerning the twinning, that we communicate with Mr. Gaudet so that he can give us a report on the trip so that the municipality can benefit from it. Thank you. Councillor Béliveau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the same question as Councillor Dallaire, but there are other elements that I want to bring forth. First of all, the trip called La France des Acadiens 2016 is a trip that is organized annually, and it's been for the last 10 years from the Monument Lefebvre. And the other point that I want to raise is that we're mentioning the twinning budget, and Dieppe is not part of the trip, as Councillor Gaudet has indicated, and it's this trip that is going to be absorbing the costs. So I raise the point that it is going to be necessary to consider a request that is not specific to the question. This is an organized trip for the public. I think maybe there might be a certain amount of seats available in buses, and it's part of the budget of twinning. And once again, Dieppe is not participating, so I can't see this due to the fact that he will no longer be with council. I think that it's more of a reward, and I'm not questioning the importance of the Acadian aspect of it. So, for those reasons, I'm going to be voting against the resolution. Councillor Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. I support this resolution because, according to me, Councillor Godet has dedicated himself in an exemplary manner for everything that's francophonie. He's always supported the French cause, and after some 20 years at council, even if he will no longer be part of council, I'm sure that it will be pleasure that he will be coming here to make a report on his trip. So I think that there is still some merit in supporting this cause to at least reimburse part of his expenses. Thank you, Mr. Cormier. Are there any other questions? If not, for the resolution, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. We have one nay from Mr. Béliveau. The resolution is carried as presented. Item 10.4.3, which was added to the agenda. I think Mr. Girard is going to get Mr. Godet. So has he been found? Oh, he's going to be another couple of minutes, so we will not wait for him. We will continue at the 10.4.3. Mr. Melanson. Yes, Mr. Mayor, we received a request for financial contribution by the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 6, to grant funds for an accessible vehicle for veterans with reduced mobility. Contribution of $2,500. It's in part of a global project. So if Council would like to contribute, this is the resolution. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Béliveau, please. Mr. Mayor, the Council authorized that a financial contribution in the amount of $2,500 be given to the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 6, for the purchase of an accessible vehicle in order to provide transportation services to visitors residing at a Veterans Special Care Home, and further authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from account number 1-2-20-28-2310, General Operating Budget, Grants to Organizations, Uncommitted Grants. That Council authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $2,500 from account number 1-2-20-28-2320, General Operating Budget, Grants, Event Hosting, to account number 1-2-20-28-2310, General Operating Budget, Grants to Organizations, uncommitted grants. So moved. Moved by Councillor Béliveau, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. Now for municipal bylaws, bylaw S6.
Monsieur Mélenchon.
Alors ici, c'est l'arrêté concernant...
Okay. Yeah, this is a bylaw on dog control. This is for the reading by title and number only. The bylaw is posted on the website. So it's reading by title. Councillor Nolan. Yes, Your Worship. It's bylaw number S-6, 2016, a bylaw relating to dog control. Pursuant to the authority vested in it by the Municipalities Act, the Council of Dieppe duly assembled enacts as follows. 1. Definitions. 2. Licenses. 3. Responsibilities of owners. 4. Rabies. 5. Seizing and impounding. 6. Fierce or dangerous dogs. 7. Appeal. 8. Offenses. Repeal. And I so move it in its entirety by title and numbers only. Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Nolan, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. All those in favor of the resolution, of the bylaw rather, after having read it in its entirety, will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. And so bylaw is adopted in its entirety. Now we're going to have third reading by title only. Yes, it's bylaw number S-6, 2016, a bylaw relating to dog control, and I so move it. It's been moved for third and final reading, and been moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, all those in favor of the bylaw will signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Bylaw number S-6, 2016 has been carried in third and final reading. Now, bylaw number 9. 11.2. Thank you. This is a bylaw on respecting traffic for Doucette Court on both sides for the entire length of the street, and this is for third reading in its entirety and the third reading by title only. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. It's bylaw number 9. Brackets 28-2016, a bylaw in amendment to the bylaw number 9 of the Municipality of Dieppe respecting traffic. That Council of the City of Dieppe duly assembled hereby enacts as follows. Section 8 is amended in subsection 1 by adding after paragraph 17 the following. 17.1 Doucette Court, both sides for the entire length of the street. And I so move it. I move the reading in the entirety. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Godet. On the question, if there are no questions, all those in favor of the bylaw as read in its entirety will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It has been read in its entirety. This is bylaw number 9, 28-2016. And now third reading by title only. Once again, Councillor Thibodeau. Bylaw number 9, parentheses 28-2016, a bylaw and amendment of the bylaw number 9 of the Municipality of Dieppe respecting traffic. And I so move it by title only. Thank you for third and final reading as proposed and seconded by Councillor Godet on the question. If not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. Bylaw number 9, 28-2016 is carried in third and final reading.
Do we have any notices of motion? No notices of motion. So now for inquiries and announcements by members of council. I'll be asking starting by Councillor. I'd like to thank my colleagues around the table and members of the administration and citizens of Dieppe for giving me the privilege of working with you for 4 years. And I look forward to the next 4 years to work with members of council who will be here again and members of administration and citizens of Dieppe. So thank you for the last 4 years and thank you hopefully for the next 4 years. Thank you, Councillor Nolan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just beautiful success to the commandos who were in the process of winning. At this point, it's 3 against 2. And if we go for a 7th game, we wish them luck Wednesday in Dieppe. Wednesday, yes. So, great success to the commandos. And thank you also to all the colleagues around the table. Great time, and I wish good luck to all in their future endeavors. And that's it. Thank you. Good evening. Madame Dallaire, thank you. Nothing for me tonight. Thank you, Councillor Godette. During a meeting with Parks Canada and other organizations who are interested in the working of Beaubassin, I learned that another atlas from Paul Surette, our historian, was going to be launched by Tantramar Heritage Board editors. We've contributed $5,000 last year, and finally it ended up, the book has been printed and it will be launched Saturday afternoon in the region of Beaubassin. In other words, I think it's in Sackville. No, I think maybe it's on a site close to the border on the Nova Scotia side. Wasn't sure, but yes, it was confirmed this afternoon. Okay. I want to remember to the Fry Festival. There are authors, writers, extraordinary, and activities that are extraordinary, so you shouldn't miss the opportunity. And I'd like to wish good luck to our commandos. I don't know what to do for them to be a little bit more regular. Sometimes it's been tough for them, so we're still going to hope that they'll win. Thanks for the heads up on the 3-2 for the time being. And even if I will not end my activities with the community, I know that towards the end of May I will be ending my activities with the council. So I'd like to express to the members of council, the mayor, to staff, all the different levels of Municipal Hall and all the other aspects of Municipal Hall, and for their support and their contribution. I'd like to thank also all the citizens, the volunteers, and all the electors who have elected me 5 times, which permitted me to take part in the activities of council, and also my responsibility of leisure, culture, and for a total of 20 years all told, and I have been honored. I can't really stop cold like this. I have to continue on a little bit. An update, 3-3, with a couple of minutes left. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A special thanks to Councillor Dallaire, Councillor Béliveau, Councillor Godette for their services to the municipality. And I want to thank the citizens of Ward 2 for their support over the last 4 years. I'd like to invite citizens to vote either next Saturday, the 30th, Vance Paul, or on the 2nd of May, or on the 9th of May, the day of elections. It's very important in a democratic system to vote. Thank you very much. Thanks to my colleagues around the table, Monsieur Cormier, Councillor Thibodeau. And I also would like to thank all the colleagues around the table, as well as Mr. Mayor, the staff, for the good collaboration over the last 4 years, and also want to highlight the great contribution of Madame Dallaire, Monsieur Gaudette, and Monsieur Béliveau, who brought a fantastic contribution to this council over the last 4 years and the years before I came to council. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you at the next council table. Councillor Béliveau. I'm going to try to limit my comments to avoid other mistakes. Oh, you got a special permission. Everything is permitted to you tonight. Oh, you're too kind. Yeah, because you're nearing the exit, so everything will be okay. First thing is a comment. I think there are a couple of members of council who went to Commandos games, and they seem to have there seems to have been regular problems on the ice next to the boards. I don't know if the responsible for the arena will be able to tell us whether some improvements can be made. Could something be done so to avoid this type of thing next to the boards on the ice? There's been a little renovation that was done, and that caused problems on the ice, especially where the boards are a little bit more mobile. So we'll have the same system next season that we had previously, and that is basically how we're going to be addressing that problem. We'll be working on it once the season is finished. I know that the players are a lot bigger and they're hitting much harder now, so the problem is that it caused delays, and those delays maybe caused our commandos to lose a little bit of momentum. So, but hopefully they'll be able to win tonight and play again Wednesday night. I'd also like to answer a question that was asked by Monsieur Pellerin at the last televised meeting. It would be to use the same forum to be able to give him the answer that it would be based on the research that was done. So the city of Dieppe checked out possibilities on tenders and RFPs, studied elsewhere in Canada where they don't give the list of the people who submit RFPs. Other cities in New-Brunswick have the same practice. These practices can vary depending on the municipalities and the act. These practices could end up in other provinces where things for tenders are much more strict. This is the type of the answer that he has received. But it's just to say that the city of Dieppe does not hide. The city of Dieppe follows procedures that are acceptable to the, according to the province, and maybe the last thing I want to say, I'd like to thank my colleagues around the table, the administration, for the 10.5 years that I spent with you, and for your tolerance. I'd also like to show my recognition to my family for their support, and I would like also to encourage citizens to vote on any of the dates mentioned by Councillor Gaudette. So I encourage everyone, and I wish good luck to the candidates, and let's hope that there'll be 7 lucky people. Thank you. Good evening. Maybe to say that the reading of the email that you've done here was an answer that was sent directly to Mr. Pellerin in answer to the question of 2 weeks ago. That's just to give you the details about it. Thank you and have a good evening. Once again, it has been mentioned, let's make sure that as many people as possible, and we saw in an article this morning from the Times and Transcript and the Telegraph Journal talking about statistics of the bigger towns where Dieppe has the highest rate of participation, but it's still very low when we're talking about 51, 54%. I think that there are quite a few people around the planet who would really love to have the opportunity just to vote and to be able to participate in this democratic vote. So please, it's your turn. So once again, good evening.